Hey guys, welcome to the Desolator Legal channel, apparently, because Wizards is being sued again. Now if you're thinking, oh yeah, I think I heard about that, isn't it over? Nope, this is a different one. Oh, that's right, they're also being sued by, nope, it's an additional one. Wait, are the judges still suing them? Is this like an appeal or something? Nope, different one. So I'd be asking, who's all suing Wizards? Everyone, apparently. Heck, I'd sue them if they pissed me off. So this was filed really recently. As of this recording, 3.5 days ago. So this is just hot off the presses right here. By the way, funny story, I kind of misread while skimming, and I was under the impression that this entire lawsuit may have been my fault. And I'll hit on that later in the video. It's pretty funny, actually. So unlike the last, I thought I had the number in my head and then I thought of another one. I'll just say 4 because I thought it was 2, then I thought of a third one, and there's probably one I'm missing. So after the last 4-ish lawsuits against Wizards that I've been covering, or I should say unlike those, this one has a little bit of a twist. Those are like, wow, Wizards really screwed somebody over and Wizards is going to lose, like with the ACD one, potentially. And they're definitely going to lose in the Dragonlance ones. They have an indefensible position in that lawsuit. They better just settle. I hate to kind of ruin the twist ending here, but with this one, it looks like both parties involved might be awful. And honestly, after looking into this, I don't really care who wins. Who wins is going to be determined almost exclusively by what the exact wording of the contract said, and they're taking the time, effort, and money to sue them for breach of contract. So I'm going to take a wild guess Gale Force 9 Games is going to win, which is the plaintiff in this one. So they are seeking just short of $1 million in damages. It's $950,000, which, I mean, it's a lot, but it's not that much. We've heard of bigger lawsuits, but that's probably more than this contract was worth. I don't know. I mean, so they're basically suing for breach of contract. And Wizards apparently has a very long history of backing out of deals, screwing people over, and not paying people. At least as long as I've been following the company, and I've heard some pretty bad things from ex-employees too. But I mean, guys, this is Wizards of the Coast. They refuse to hire black artists pretty much ever, and when they get black contractors, they treat them like crap, allegedly, and never give them any kind of work or promotions or anything, allegedly. I mean, they are a sincerely horrible company full of terrible human beings. Just follow some of the high-profile staff members on Twitter. I mean, they're at full-blown, like, I just burned my salmon I was trying to cook, blah, 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 Trump's fault. They only hire mentally deranged people, it would seem. And then out of one side of their mouth, they're like, yay, gay people. Then on the other side of their mouth, they're like, ew, hiring a black person? This is Seattle. We don't do that. I'm sure this is like the 4th or 5th of many lawsuits that we're going to see against Wizards in the next year. Remember when their hiring director came out on Twitter and said, we are hiring a person for this position and like, don't apply if you're white. We are not hiring a white person. We are looking for anybody who is not white for this position. I mean, that's paraphrasing, but that's what they said. And then every single reply was, that's against Washington state law, you racist bitch. So yeah, Wizards has a long history of just doing whatever the hell they want. And then as soon as somebody sues them, they're like, what? What do you mean we did something wrong? We just did what we always do, which is whatever the hell we want, because we're a bunch of entitled assholes. You know, I should probably talk about the lawsuit at some point. Sorry, it's like 3 a.m. I got confused. I thought I was on trial as a character witness, which, besides really not being a thing at all, is especially not a thing in civil cases. So anyway, this all started, according to Gale Force 9's complaint, around May of 2020. Wizards just contacted them and said, we're going to end the 2017 agreement that we have, and by agreement they mean contract, and also the 2008 agreement that they had, both of them 1 year early, on December 31st, 2020, rather than the actual ending date of December 31st, 2021. So just to boil down the entire lawsuit with one little caveat I'll explain later, this is, they had a contract as a contractor to do contracted work, and then one day Wizards just called them and said, we're ending it early. To which I assume GF9 scrolled down to the breach of contract section and saw absolutely nothing relevant. At least that's how they're presenting it. So now, unlike with the Dragonlance lawsuit, in this case, Wizards did actually state a reason, and this is where the very simple open and close case gets a little interesting. They said that, quote, certain products licensed under the 2017 release schedule, already in production, were not going to be approved. Which, from what I read about the lawsuit, is a nice way of saying, you guys didn't do good enough work. And that's where we have an interesting out potentially. So, as I believe I mentioned earlier, the winner of this lawsuit is going to be determined almost entirely by the exact wording of the contract. So if they were just suing for breach of contract where you just walk into court, say, hey, look, they breached it, there's no outs, what the hell, pay us. Open and close, done, easy. But they are officially on the top of the complaint stating complaint for breach of contract, which is a fact, breach of implied duty of good faith and fair dealings, which is pretty opinion heavy. That's just the way you see it, which, by the way, they demanded a jury trial. So now 12 random ass people are going to start deciding if that seems like a violation of good faith and fair dealing, which is just a thing people tack on to every lawsuit to see what sticks. It has to be pretty blatant to win, let's put it that way. And then declaratory relief, which is just, declare that we get paid. And injunctive relief, which means a court injunction telling them to stop doing something, keep doing something, just in order to do a thing. Or to stop doing the thing that is causing the injury that is causing the, demand for relief. So what product does this involve? Well, it's the absolute 2-year on now train wreck that is the latest couple D&D books. Specifically, the International Edition or editions. They weren't terrifically clear. I assume it's editions, but they said edition, which, really? So Wizards was basically telling them, hey, make an international edition or editions of our books. And they're like, okay, cool. So the agreement was started in March of 2017, and then it was amended in May of 2018 to extend it to December 31st, 2021. So that wasn't even the original expiration date, but they did amend it and then, kind of left it sit for 2 years and then just all of a sudden went back on it almost exactly 2 years later. I mean, apparently if they extended it, they were happier. They wanted to add a workload or something because it had already been about a year at that point. So, fast forward to 2020, you got some COVID-19 delays and, whatever. That didn't really have anything to do with the contract that I saw. Wizards just calls them up and says, we're terminating it a year early. And I guess, to summarize their stated reason, it's they weren't happy with some of the work already. I mean, the terminology they used, I think I quoted this before, but just to reiterate, is some of the products that were already part of the agreement were not going to be approved. Now, up until that point, because Wizards is a bunch of dumb knuckle-dragging apes, they had taken longer than the agreed-upon period to review and approve different products that were already completed. So, other translated books, basically. I guess it's because they're too busy going on Twitter just yelling at everybody about everything, including the customers and their coworkers and current and past employees and contractors and pro players, community content creators, and really everybody's fair game of them to just absolutely bitch out for no reason other than the reason that they're far left extremist delusional nut jobs. And so naturally screaming at people makes them feel superior. And a smug sense of superior self-satisfaction is like part of the norm in Seattle. I don't know if you've ever visited. The whole place should just be leveled by a meteorite and just started over from the ground up. It is an absolute hellhole. I have several friends who own businesses and work there. My dad has visited there for business a couple times. It is an absolute ass crack of America. So naturally their employees don't, for lack of a better term, get their homework turned in on time. But instead of getting docked a couple points at a B-, they're already in breach of the contract because the contract is what set the dates for them to approve, the work of the contractors translating the books. I feel like the fact that nobody I know that works at Wizards speaks a second language might have something to do with this. I bet they got the Spanish version and were like, yeah, gendered nouns and adjectives. I don't know about that. I think I'm personally smarter than thousands of years of developed language because I'm from Seattle. And I'm superior to the rest of mankind. Can we send it back to him and have him do like one of those, like the Latin X thing instead of Latino, Latina? They just put an X there. Can we get an X job done to this? This seems kind of sexist. To which somebody just screams down the hallway, it's not in the budget. And they're like, okay, fine, whatever. I'll just turn it in a week late. Cool, it's approved, whatever. Honestly, some of the employees, from what I've heard from ex-employees reviewing them on Glassdoor.com, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if some of them just were like looking at the Russian version, like, what do these backwards R's mean? Yeah, I don't know. It's probably all right. Okay, fine. And approve it in like one day with like literally zero effort. Or just open it. Yeah, I don't know. The pictures look nice. Okay, approved. But anyway, the point is Wizards was already borderline in breach of the contract by taking too long, or as the lawsuit puts it, Wizards has occasionally taken longer than the designated approval process time to provide its approval. But prior to June 2020 had never declined to approve a product that had been included on the agreed upon release schedule. So even though for an unknown reason, although I did speculate on it, the products were sometimes delayed or whatever for some reason, they were all approved. Wizards did not say, no, go back and revise it again. Everything was eventually approved, which heavily implies there was no problem. Or at least not one that Wizards felt like disclosing to them at the time. So we're talking almost 3 years of work and just suddenly, we're canceling. Kind of out of the blue. If they had a problem, I mean, that's the approval process. They would have looked at it and said, there's some inaccuracies here. We don't like this. We don't like that. Can you tweak it? Like, that's literally what the approval process was. I would assume. I don't have a copy of their contract in front of me, obviously, but that's how these type of translation contracts work. I've kind of worked with them before. And in fact, the 2020 release schedule itself was approved by Wizards at the very end of 2019. So this was like fairly recent, just not making waves, nothing, just no problems. And then I guess from what it sounds like, Wizards just started declining everything. They wouldn't approve anything that came through. So I would think the approval process is they send it to you and say, here's our work. And then you look over the work and you're like, that looks like what we paid you to do. And then ta-da, you proceed. And then they like print the book or whatever. If something is wrong, then you say, we don't approve it. Here is why. Here's how you revise it. Exactly, precisely the same as it sounds like in the Dragonlance book lawsuit. Stuff wasn't getting approved and they weren't giving a reason, which is how you, one, show that you're guilty, and two, automatically lose in court. But remember, I'm going off of the legal complaint written by Gale Force 9 Games from Gale Force 9 Games' perspective. Let's read what Wizards actually said in their defense, which I'm shocked that they actually said anything, but the fact that they said it does save them a lot of face in this case. So, maybe companies should reconsider the whole we don't comment on ongoing legal proceedings crap that you always hear from them. All your staff members won't shut the hell up about anything else online. Why not give a statement about this? Apparently you guys love giving your opinions. Well, on November 9th, Wizards actually had something to say. By the way, funny thing about that November 9th thing, I was kind of skimming this and like, November 9th, wait a minute. That's like 2 weeks after I made that video on my channel about just how bad are the translations in Wizards of the Coast products. And I'm like, oh my God, like 2 weeks later, they sent a notice to GF9 about how bad their translations are. I might have been the source of this entire lawsuit. And then I found out that as of May 2020, they had decided to like stop dealing with them a year earlier or whatever. So anyway, on November 9th, they told GF9 that they had breached their prior agreement through releasing translations in French and Korean of, quote, certain products that were of, quote, low quality, including specifically translations that were poorly done and included inaccurate, missing, and offensive translations. So apparently somebody at GF9 was just sitting around like, hey, what's the French word for a dark-skinned elf? And somebody else is like, I don't know. Put in Enwa. I played Morrowind, and those dark elves would say it all the time. It had to mean something. You dare pickpocket me, Enwa, this will be the death of you. It's burned into my memory. And then the book comes out, and Wizards is reading it. They're like, pretty sure that's like the N-word, but for Vardenfeld. Which is not even in the D&D world. I just wanted to throw that out there as a joke. Then you go to Oblivion, and all of a sudden, all the elves are calling me Sarah. Who the hell's Sarah? My name's not Sarah. Who is she? Is she somebody I should meet? I'm just walking into a shop to buy some potions, and they're like, how are you doing today, Sarah? I'm just sitting there like, I typed in Oakland Tony when I started this game run through. Anyway, I would have given a real example if I had one, but if you guys have seen an offensive translation in a D&D book, I'm not sure, they weren't real clear if it made it to production. Like if it kind of slipped past their quote approval process. And personally, I would love to hear some of these. I mean, I could just imagine like this all being French and then they go into English for a translation. They're like, is colored still an okay adjective? Yeah, it probably is. From some French person who hasn't lived in America for like 30 years. And then we get the book in our hands and it's like, oh, them colored folks. And people are like, I don't know. It seems a little, probably should have just went with Enwa or Sarah. So get this. This is how you lose a lawsuit right here, okay? Although I'm sure that they've got screenshots. I think Wizards kept the receipts. But GF9 disputes this claim, claiming that they took the actions advised by Wizards and that they addressed this issue that Wizards is claiming. Hold up. Did you just admit that you sent them a first draft with, quote, inaccurate, missing, and offensive translations? Because that's what it sounds like you just admitted. I mean, if there's wording in the contract that says something about quality, number of revisions, like their faith in their ability to do their job correctly, getting reasonably, provably shaken, then that would terminate the contract at their option. All Wizards has to do is go to that statement right there saying, yes, they agreed to that. And because the errors were so egregious in our opinion that we didn't think they were able to do their jobs anymore, which, I mean, you got like 2.5 years of precedent of them doing a perfect job. Allegedly. So it's not quite open and shut, but boy, that's not going to look good in court. And we know that at least Magic the Gathering cards, if it's done by the same company, GF9, as the D&D products, which I kind of doubt it because GF9 also prints the books physically, I believe. But regardless of if it is them or not, we know that there have been just mountains of embarrassingly uninformed translation errors on Magic the Gathering cards. Hey, you know that video I was talking about? Yeah, go watch it. It's on back on my main channel. I think it's called Just How Bad Are Wizards Translations or something. I'd tell you it's the one with the cat in the thumbnail, but you and I both know I'd have to be more specific. So Wizards said their work was crap, and GF9 says yes, but that was during the approval process. We went back and fixed it all. So there is a thing I have to point out in case you didn't see my other video about Dragonlance. According to the Dragonlance book authors, the head of story was swapped out, so the new one, the one that's a underage person relationship enthusiast, according to his own books he's made, which should be burned, and this pervert should be locked up in a cage somewhere. Anyway, that asshole took the first draft of one of the Dragonlance books, one of the new ones, and said, there's like 70, 80, 90 problematic things in here. Insensitive, whatever, which, I mean, boy, is that the pot calling the kettle black. I think his entire book is insensitive. And that he should be locked up for making it. Because he would appear to be a raging and nobody at Wizards seems to care, which that almost speaks even more to what Wizards is like. Anyway, he's the one in charge of all the like narrative and story stuff for D&D, so theoretically he'd be the one involved in this, I guess. If he was complaining about love potions and characters' names and all this petty little SJW overreaction, Anita Sarkeesian level horse shit, you gotta wonder if their claim of, quote, inaccurate, missing, and offensive translations were some seriously exaggerated nonsense, because all that we're hearing from GF9 is, we dispute this, we took the actions advised by Wizards. Now, strangely missing from that statement is, oh yeah, there were factual problems, there were provable errors. Now, sounds to me like Wizards just bitched about a bunch of stuff being offensive, which, I mean, what's Anita's favorite saying? It's something like everything is racist and sexist if you look hard enough, and if you don't see it, look harder, or something like that. Yeah, you get my meaning on this? So we have like an actual admitted example with another lawsuit of them doing the exact same thing that they did to GF9, basically, which is not approving stuff and requesting bullshit revisions from greatly exaggerated nonsense. I mean, this is coming from the same company, Wizards of the Coast, who thinks that orcs are black people. So, I mean, literally nobody outside of their snobby, rich, white, elite, asshole Seattle douchebag selves thinks that orcs are black people, but that's their official company policy now, in case you didn't hear it. Oh, also the drow. So, I mean, that's why I'm kind of making the case here, which I know I should be a lawyer. I'd be unbelievably good at it. I'm actually quite good at like logical debates and stuff. Like, you don't want to debate me. If Trump would have bowed out at the last second and sent me up on the stage, he would have won California. Biden might have actually had a heart attack trying to debate me. But anyway, the case I'm making here is that their, quote, offensive translations were absolute nonsense. And I would further say, they said inaccurate, missing, and offensive translations. Okay, let's start with inaccurate. If they have somebody who speaks, French, Russian, Portuguese, whatever, fluently enough to catch an inaccurate translation, working for Wizards of the Coast, wouldn't they just have them do the translation? Now let's move on to missing. The entire book is full of a bunch of weird fantasy pronouns and stuff. Like, oh, this is Vardenshire. And then the book comes back and they're like, you didn't translate Vardenshire into French. And they're like, we didn't know we were supposed to. I think that would explain missing. And then offensive translations. Well, literally everything offends Wizards. I'm pretty sure me breathing right now offends Wizards. Probably because I'm a white male. I can just hear them thinking right now, can you breathe less whitely? No, I'm incapable of doing that. Sorry, Wizards. So you may recall at the beginning of the video, I said I'm not sure whose side I'm on, and yet it really seems like I'm on a side here. That's because I really hate Wizards of the Coast and the way some of their people have treated me in the past. and friends of mine, and other players, and other people in the community, and the standard meta. I hate them with such an intensely burning passion you have no idea. But I also know that the translations of their products are complete and utter shit. So this case, in my opinion, is the provable fact that whoever the hell is translating things for Wizards of the Coast, it would appear, assuming the same people do the Magic cards as the books, although I've heard the books have shitty translations too, whoever's doing them, it would appear, does a bad job. So that's Wizards' side. And then we've got Wizards ripped us off and terminated the thing out of nowhere after just declining product after product and giving no explanation or no request for revision. And then I guess eventually just telling us, inaccurate, missing, and offensive translations, so we're dropping the contract. Now notice they appear to have said we're eliminating the contract a year early, not, hey, you're in breach of contract. Or as the contract states, because you did this, we are now within our rights to end it a year early. Honestly, they're probably both at fault. So they're asking for a mere $950,000, which is probably the majority or slightly over the value of the remaining contract or whatever. And I don't have the full legal document in front of me because you got to pay to see it. I've seen some excerpts from it. So I'm not sure what specifically they're asking for in the injunction is. I assume it has to do with the remaining stock because, well, let me just read an interesting point because, they're asking for $950,000. You might think that's high, you might think that's low, but here's something that's going to surprise you in either way. GF9 will suffer significant impacts to its reputation in the industry, with distribution partners to whom GF9 supplies the manufactured products and licensors of other products with whom GF9 currently works and desires to work. Further, GF9's manufacturing partners with whom GF9 has contracted to manufacture Dungeons & Dragons and other products will be significantly harmed, as GF9 will be forced to terminate its foreign translation and distribution subcontractors and face legal challenges in numerous jurisdictions worldwide. So they'll be in breach of contract with their, subcontracted printers and translators. Ouch. If you ask me, $950,000 is low in that case, but they say finally, GF9 will lose the continued revenue expected to be earned under the agreement. Okay, that's what I assumed the entire amount was. But wait, there's more. Section 69 of the lawsuit. Nice. If Wizards is permitted to terminate the 2017 agreement, GF9 is required to immediately cease production of any additional products and very shortly thereafter either sell to Wizards the products it has already produced or destroy the entirety of its remaining stock of produced products. Oh, it's really expensive to make a bunch of books and then burn them all. Okay, shred them all. But because of, who owns the IP and all this stuff, they can't just sell them. They can't just liquidate them. They can't throw them out on the secondary market, sell them in bulk, bankruptcy auction, none of that. I mean, okay, I don't think they're going to go bankrupt, but I'm just saying that's where I get a lot of the stuff I buy. Business bankruptcies be hopping lately. I do a lot of resale on the side on eBay. I should probably mention that. So, if they're going to have to pay out the remaining contracts from their foreign translators, their printers, pay to have the books disposed of, plus lose the entire margin, plus all of the lost potential revenue, how does that only add up to just under $1 million? I mean, geez. But then again, they're really just, I guess, like a printing company. I'm not sure what GF9 even does because they said subcontracted translators. Like, if they're subcontracting all the work, what the hell do they do other than, I guess, print the books? Because they said they'd have to destroy the products they already made. So are they just a printing company? Do they do distribution? Do they do logistics internationally? I mean, I'm sure they do some of that. I could look it up. I just don't care. But if they're kind of like this whole big middleman, do nothing, small margin, whatever, yeah, I mean, $1 million probably is about the margin. I don't know. It's pretty rare that I look at the amount given in an initial lawsuit complaint and say it should be higher. Let's put it that way. So I'll assume they know what they're getting, and usually they target it really, like, not crazy exaggerated, but exaggerated a little bit because they know that a settlement or a judge ruling and then what they actually collect and then the lawyer's fees, it's gonna be lower. So actual incurred losses could probably be closer to $500,000. As low as that seems, I mean, the total gross amount of money made on these books total worldwide is not that high. I've seen some estimated numbers based on some like Hasbro released reports and stuff, and boy, do they like mixing categories together, but it looks like the D&D segment isn't like that lucrative. Like, they aren't hauling in Magic the Gathering money. Just think about like what you spend on Magic cards in a year if you play Magic, and then what you spend on D&D books in a year if you play D&D. There's a difference. I think there was a pretty good motivation for Wizards to license out and make 4 Dungeons & Dragons officially licensed movies and just collect the licensing fee. It's a shame only 2 of them were vaguely good, but anyway. So, I mean, in a statement given to the press, which is the only other thing I've really heard about this, GF9's John Paul Bruscotti said, after 12 years of working with Wizards, we found ourselves in a difficult place having to utilize the legal system to try and resolve an issue we have spent the last 6 months trying to amicably handle between us without any success. Very telling statement there. He continues, we still hope this could be settled between us, but the timeline for a legal resolution has meant that we have been forced to go down this path at this time. So they just can't go any longer without getting paid is what it sounds like. Or they're just so fed up with Wizards crap, they're like, fine, we'll sue you. Because nobody wants to waste the money on the lawyers and crap, because in this case, they're not going to get that money back, in all likelihood. Generally, if the case is extremely one-sided with no defense, no 2 sides to it whatsoever, it is just the most egregious thing you've ever heard, then you can throw in legal fees, because the fact that you had to even go to court in the first place is seen as like unnecessary, and like they have now caused you to spend more money on a lawyer, so now you get reimbursed for that too. That's a drastic overgeneralization, but that's pretty much how it works. The fact that Wizards is like, no, we think that they're in breach of it because their work was crap. Now you might have something. All you have to have is a little bit of a point, and you get out of legal fees. Because then it's like, well, they have a point, you have a point. Okay, you each hire your own lawyer, spend your own money, and go to court. So that's unfortunate, just like it's unfortunate Wizards couldn't work their crap out in the last 6 months of them going back and forth trying to handle this. But, well, when you're working with the lying, backstabbing cheaters at Wizards of the Coast, who, when they get accused of anything or any bad things come up, they just do whatever they want, don't care about, fairness, legality, and they just act like children, this is what happens. You go to court and you take their money. So I honestly do hope that Wizards loses. But if it comes out that Wizards was like, no, here's clearly where they breached the contract, their work wasn't good enough, and we don't think it ever will be. Simple as that. They're just whining and trying to make up the money in court. Maybe they should do a better job. Oh, well, case closed. Then I think Gale Force 9 deserves it. So I'd almost hesitate to say this, but whoever wins in this case probably deserves to win. Whichever way it goes, it probably should have gone that way. You never know, though, because lawyers can be absolute scumbag snakes. Should be interesting to see what happens with this lawsuit. I don't have like a real great way of following this, and usually when there's a settlement, it's all hush-hush sealed, whatever, where they can't talk about the amount, so it all just kind of goes away, and then 5 years later, you're like, oh, I wonder whatever happened with that lawsuit, and maybe you can dig around and find some court documents, but usually we just won't hear anything unless they want to make a victory lap and say we won. Like if they win in court, it's who cares? They're going to give you every detail. They're going to dump on Wizards so hard. But anything involving a settlement usually has pages of what they're not allowed to say. Like, you're giving all the money back if you disclose the amount of money, or you're giving all the money back and you're in breach of the settlement if you disparage Wizards of the Coast in any way to the press. Usually when they read a line like that, they're like, screw you, we're not signing this. But I think at this point, they're just after money. So unfortunately, it's probably not going to happen that we get full information about the result of this. But there's a lot of you out there, so, I mean, if there's a settlement or something happens in the case, feel free to contact me and I will make a follow-up video. But unfortunately, lawsuits move at the speed of the U.S. legal system, which is not real quick. Especially if Wizards of the Coast friends keep burning down the courthouses. That really slows things down. Oh, you thought I was done going hard and dunking on Wizards? Never. I don't care if 3 years from now Hasbro spins off Wizards of the Coast and then they file for bankruptcy and everything dies. I will never stop talking bad about that company because of all the shit they've put me through and the way they've treated me, the community, and the game. Wizards, you want me to go away and stop telling the truth about how shitty your company is? $100,000. I'll delete both channels. Not even close them down, not even stop uploading. I will delete them. $100,000 right now. I think we all know at this point I'm only doing YouTube full-time for money. I clearly hate covering this game. $100K, bye-bye. I'll go cover Metro Exodus or some shit. I'll do Desolator cooking. I don't give a fuck. I'm about the dollar bills, y'all. For $100K, I'll just sit back by a 4K camera and y'all see like Ryan's Toys reviews, but with like a 33-year-old old-ass man. $100K is I no longer give a shit levels of money to my broke ass. Speaking of that, if you'd also like to donate me $100,000, my Patreon link is in the description, and I'm going to be sending out Christmas presents very shortly. I don't want to ruin the surprise, but, well, one, it's not the thing I've been talking about for 6 months because I still can't find an overseas contractor to like reliably do it and ship it because COVID's still a thing. So that's delayed for like a long time, unfortunately. And the people on my Discord channel know what the item is that I was going to send out, and they're like, probably pretty crushed over it because it was like the coolest thing ever in the history of Patreon. But this is cool too, what I'm sending out. It's heavily requested. It's actually everything everybody's ever requested all in one item. And if you're familiar with my channel, you'll probably be able to solve that mystery. And by the way, the levels don't mean anything on Patreon, okay? I don't care if you subbed right now today for $1, I'm gonna spend 60 cents mailing you this cool ass thing. And so for existing patrons, make sure that your address is correct and that you haven't moved or that you didn't put in a comically fake one. I mean, I respect the hustle. That's exactly what I would do if it asked for one. But I mean, if you want to get the item, you might want to. So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. And I will see you guys next time the Wizards get sued, I guess.